Greetings, this is Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. I'm Herbert Erpaderp and here are the questions. Plaid Squid 41030 said, "Are you ready for the skeleton war?" Nope, not at all. I'm hoping the skeleton inside me isn't planning on going and fighting either. I'm still kind of using it. Burner581 said, "Do you have any medieval armies in your collection?" I don't, unless you count the mostly unbuilt old Warhammer The Empire models I've got around here somewhere. I don't think they really count as medieval though, but they would be the closest thing I've got. Duncanuva said, "Are you ready for Halloween?" Nope. Well, I mean, I'm as ready as I'm going to be. I'm not going to dress up or anything like that, so I guess yes and no. Snake Stransky said, "What corp or alliance were you in when you played EVE Online? I'm a former FA member." I do remember the FA ticker, I think it was Fatal Ascension. I can't remember if they were allied with the Goons or someone else. Anyway, I did already answer this elsewhere, but I figured I might as well do so here too. I was part of Dreadit, which of course is part of the Test Alliance, which suited my not too serious about spaceships attitude for the most part. I was part of the Alliance logistics team, probably one of the only ones that didn't steal the logistics hangar. I was reminiscing about it the other day, and I remembered the time I was supposed to drop a new POS tower in place of one that a fleet was destroying. The enemy tower exploded, I warped in, decloaked and dropped the tower, but I was too incompetent and slow in onlining it and some, I think it was a goon, managed to online it for themselves. It was pretty hilarious. The fleet had to stay there and destroy that tower, and I did get it right on the second try. I do kind of miss EVE Online, and I really enjoyed the time I spent playing it. I rather enjoyed stealth bomber fleets, and we had at least one excellent stealth bomber FC, a guy by the name of Dingo GS I think. It was also fun to just take out junk fleets of whatever was laying about and go and find a fight, often with the Russians because they were always up for it. Problem is I spent way too much time in the game, and I think nowadays I have rose-tinted glasses. It's probably not as much fun as I remember it. I look back on the massive fleet battles that we had like Asakai and the time we lost all of our space, but then I also think time dilation kind of sucked. I've been winning EVE Online for a long time now and I've stopped keeping up with what's happening, but I do sometimes wonder what's going on with Test, and I occasionally consider playing again. Henry the Panzerfaust said, "Have you heard of Warhammer Kill Team? I think it would be a great way to get you into 40k again." I have heard of Kill Team, and I've seen boxes of it in a few shops around the place. Thing is, I don't really want to get back into 40k, not unless some of my friends are also going to play, and I don't really think they are. I have heard that Warhammer were getting better with their pricing, but I looked at their Kill Team starter set and it was way too expensive for my taste. The Tau starter set is over $100 and I don't feel like you get $100 worth of stuff. Also, it didn't look like it comes with a rulebook, which seems to be a digital product costing over $50, which made me nope right out of there. Burner581 said, "Would this song fit into your list of songs to wreck tanks with? If so, what tank would fit the best with this?" And they've linked Twilight of the Thunder God by Amon Amarth. I'm pretty sure this song is already in my playlist for when I'm streaming. I'm not sure how often it shows up, but the band themselves do come up quite a bit, and I rather like them. They're one of the few bands in this style that I do actually really like, and I saw them a while ago with Sabaton. It was very good. I don't know which tank is the best fit, probably something heavy and Swedish. Max Strike Eagle said, "Have you ever heard any Gorillaz songs? They are a pretty interesting band and I'd say they make good music." I have heard them before, but never anything that really appealed to me or made me want to check them out any further. Duncanuva said, "Could you turn a KV-2 into a spaceship?" I don't see why not. I mean, I couldn't personally, I don't have the skills or finances, but maybe somebody else could. It wouldn't be a very good spaceship, you would need to seal it up good and proper, and it would probably cost way too much to get into orbit, but if you've got billions and billions of dollars, it might make a fun little side project. Hint hint, Elon Musk or Amazon guy? Bezos? I've forgotten his name. Ducking Tanker said, if you could put a KV-2 turret on a t-shirt, would you? I guess I could, really. I have actually considered doing something like that, but I'm way too lazy to make a design for it and I don't really want to pay somebody else to do it for me. Also, t-shirt sales are low, so there's not much motivation to put in the work. So I guess the answer is, I probably wouldn't, but I could. I am thinking of doing some more simple designs for shirts, maybe the word piss because I kind of want a shirt that says piss. I haven't really put a lot of thought into it though. TM Gamer said, if you could put a KV-2 turret on a B-29, would you? Sure, it would look very silly and great. I'm sure it would probably crash even trying to take off, but that's for somebody else to deal with. John Hell said, can you cope with the fact that the KV-2's turret was extremely flawed and is actually a thing that needed to be fixed? Easily. It sounds like you're taking it a bit too seriously and missing the fun part. The KV-2 turret looks and is derpy and silly. That's what makes it good and entertaining, not the thought that it's an amazing and effective design or something like that. That said, I'm sure it was effective enough under favourable conditions, especially earlier in the war. I've read a lot of things saying that the Germans had trouble defeating KV-1 and 2 tanks early on. Also, you have to keep in mind that it wasn't designed for fighting tanks. It was designed to shoot at bunkers and fortifications and things like that. Either way, it's silly and that's what I like about it. Penfold07 said, I want to cast some small replacement parts for some of my kits. The parts are things like antenna bases, so only 1 or 2 millimeters in size. Can you recommend a method to try for something that small? That's pretty small. I've never cast anything that small myself. Depending on how delicate the parts are, maybe you could use some reusable putty like Oyamaru, if that's how you say it. It's a compound that comes in stick form that you heat up and use as a press mold. That is to say, you press the part into the putty and then when it's cooled and hardened, you press some more putty like green stuff into it. It's pretty good for flat objects. I would be concerned that pressing small parts into it may break them though. I'm pretty sure that I've demonstrated that sort of thing in videos before, and it is a good product, though it can be hard to get perfect results. For small things like antenna mounts, I would be inclined to just try and make a mold with silicon rubber like Pinky Sil. When doing that, I would suggest gluing the parts onto a scrap piece of plastic to act like a sprue. Better yet, if they're on their original sprue, leave them on there. That scrap piece of plastic or sprue will act as a handle and make things much easier. For tiny things like that, you shouldn't really need to use too much Pinky Sil, so it shouldn't be too expensive to do and you'd have plenty left over. I would think that would be the better option for parts that are more three-dimensional than a simple flat object. Hopefully that's at least a little bit helpful. Australian Train Nut said, what is your favourite Queensland locomotive? It's a toss-up between the PB-15 and the enormous Bayer Garrett. The PB-15 was the first type of steam engine that I'd ever encountered in real life, and the Bayer Garrett is just huge and cool looking. Also, they painted it a really nice shade of red. If I had to choose a diesel locomotive, I guess I would choose the old 1500 class. I got to drive one of these when I was a very young kid with my granddad. Well, I pushed the throttle forward, not so much drove the entire locomotive, but it still counts, damn it. And they're kind of like a baby GP9 with that high short hood. And I think that style of engine looks pretty cool. Plaid Squid 41030 said, would you believe your eyes if a Sherman Firefly lit up a panther as you retreated? I'm led to believe this is an attempt at a song parody. I don't know the song, I don't think it's one I would be into. Ducking Tanker told me this, and without such input it would be a random and confusing sentence that I don't get. So, yes, I would believe my eyes, I suppose. Sneaky Zaku said, what's your favourite game that everyone likes to hate? You know, be it a guilty pleasure where you know it's bad but enjoy it anyway, or something that you think is good even if everyone else disagrees with you. Personally, I like Andromeda. Yes, that Andromeda. I'm not sure which Andromeda you're referring to, and I don't think I really have a good answer for this. I don't have guilty pleasures, mostly because I don't care what other people think of my liking things. I don't feel a need for approval from others, and I don't see why I should feel guilty for enjoying something. I'm sure there are plenty of people who both love and hate the games that I play. I like playing Minecraft, for example. I know there are plenty of people out there who hate it for whatever reason, but I don't care. And why would I? I'm playing the game and I enjoy it. If somebody else doesn't like the game, they're perfectly welcome to that opinion. They can go and play something else if they want. It doesn't impact me at all. I guess sometimes it does impact me. I mean, if I'm streaming and somebody drops into the chat to say, I hate X game, that impacts me in a very minor way. As in, I feel a bit sorry for them that their time is so worthless that they can waste it by going into streams of games that they don't like. And maybe in that I have to expend the energy to click the ban button. But it's something that's forgotten after a second or two, so it's not really a big impact at all. I guess I'm more rambling than answering, so I'll move on. Duncanuva said, how about a tips channel on Discord for people to share their model making or painting tips? That's actually a pretty good idea. I will implement that at some point. Probably before this goes live, maybe. Top Bunk Productions said, do you ever wonder if there's beer in the sun? No, I can't say that's ever really occurred to me. The beer would be way too warm anyway, and warm beer is awful. It'll still get you drunk, but I would much prefer cold beer. Monol said, are you as insulted as I am that the Blitzkrieg didn't only progress when there was a thunderstorm? I don't know. How insulted are you? I mean, it is a bit obnoxious that they would name it so misleadingly, but that's Nazis for you. It would have been so much easier to combat them if they had stuck to only warring during thunderstorms. There was only one actual question in the YouTube comments last fortnight, and it was from RedGreen09, who said, what favourite TV shows, cartoons do you like, 70s, 80s and 90s? The question is a little bit unclear. I'm sure there's a lot of cartoons that I grew up watching and liked from those decades. I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, so some of the 90s stuff is less relevant, I guess, and I can't remember a lot of the stuff that I watched. I do remember stuff like Captain Planet, DuckTales, Tailspin, Rocko's Modern Life. There was also old stuff like the Flintstones and the Jetsons, but I don't think they were favourites, they were just sort of there. I don't know, that's probably not a really good answer, and I'll probably remember a whole bunch of stuff that I really loved watching when I finished making the video, because that's how it works when you're old and crap like me. Anyway, now it's time for models shared by the fine folks over on the Discord server. First up, James Valentine shared his painted Rubicon Stug. This is the one we saw last week with all the interesting customizations that James added. Anyone that's seen James's work before won't be surprised by how good this looks. It's an interesting paint scheme painted very nicely. I don't think it's entirely historically accurate, but I kind of like seeing the cool things people come up with themselves a bit more than historical accuracy. Also, the name Dana on the side makes me think, there is no Dana, only Zool. Monol shared this, I believe it's a T90, though I'm not entirely sure. This looks great and I really like the barrel wrapping. That's made from some old bandages from a first aid kit that was soaked in a very watered down Russian green. Nice work. And here are Top Bunk Productions' completed Stabby Mans. While scrolling through the Discord channel, the stabbers looked a bit like pencils and that kind of entertained me. They do look very good though. Here they're imprisoned in a clear box. They probably can't stab their way out of that, but they look good and that's really what matters. Also, Top Bunk kit bashed this Lewis gun around a chopped up Browning 50 cal for this Plastic Soldier Company figure. And here, after the figure lost his legs in what was probably quite a horrific accident, he's been placed into the turret of the Rolls-Royce armoured car that Top Bunk has been working on. Very cool. It's always nice to see a creative solution to the problem of not having exactly what you want. Next, Cartool shared this ship in a dock. I quite like the idea of a dock as a display diorama, though it would be cool if it had some more dock stuff on it, like cranes and boxes and things like that. Still, it looks really nice. And here's some more ships. I'm not sure if they're all the same scale as the first one, which is 1/1200th, but they look really nice, and the bases they're on are great. Cartool said that they are made from putty. It's very nice work. Cartool also likes tanks. I mean, who doesn't? They shared this very nice Zvezda T-72B, presumably in 1/35th scale. It's clearly about to go rampaging through those gigantic flowers, as you do in a tank. Ratto shared this Panzer IV. This is the Warlord Resonant Metal Kit. I've got one of these too, and it looks like yours is a bit more neatly cast than mine was, and you've painted it really nicely. Ratto also noted that the lightness of the grey reminds him of Finnish Panzer IVs. I think it would look a bit more menacing in a darker grey, but it looks good anyway. Pax Britannica has shared this guy, who his buddies have named Kaiser Wilhelm the 208th, which I found really amusing. It's a really good looking model too. And here's an infantryman they named Eric? Well, that's not as amusing, but it's still a very nice looking model. Eastern Union shared this ISU 152. This is the trumpeter model. Eastern Union said constructive criticism would be helpful, so if you've got any, leave it in the comment section below. The key word to remember is constructive. I don't think I've really got any criticisms myself, but I do really like the use of twigs and the net-like stuff, and the sheets on the engine deck look pretty convincing, though they look like something thin like sheets or maybe parachutes than something heavier like tarps. Maybe you could add some fuel stains or something to the external fuel tanks. It looks really good to me. Gerhard Teppo shared this diorama which represents Warsaw in 1939, and this is his first time doing buildings. I think it looks super good, especially considering it's a first attempt. I'm pretty sure we've seen that half track in a previous Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. It looks good too. I believe this is mostly made of foam and bits of balsa wood. It's very convincing, and I'm excited to see future dioramas that Gerhard Teppo makes. Teppo has also shared this shooty boy. This is a 1/16th scale Soviet NBC soldier in resin. I believe NBC stands for Nuclear, Biological and Chemical, which explains the gas mask and the full suit. It looks really nicely done. From a distance you would be forgiven for thinking this is a real person. I don't know what else to say about this. It looks amazing. Ducking Tanker wasn't sure if she'd shared this with us. I don't think I've seen it before, but I'm old and crap, so I do forget a lot of things. This is a Warhammer Chimera with a Tamiya 1/48th scale Crusader turret added to it, which I think looks really cool. It's really filthy looking, which I guess fits in with the grimdark of 40k. And here's a progress update on Ducking Tanker's French army. Very nice. I still really like the colour of the tanks. I'm pretty sure I said that a few times before. Also, the war coaches have arrived. If you've been in the Discord server, you'll have seen posts about these before. From what I can see, they actually look pretty neat for resin, especially Warlord resin. I'm really amused by the idea of ferrying infantry around the battlefield in buses like tourists. I can't wait to see more progress on these. Shermanaholic shared not a Sherman. This is a Rubicon Tiger 1 painted up as Heavy Tank No. 6 that was meant to be given to Japan by Germany. Shermanaholic said it was an absolute pain in the arse to paint the yellow over the dark green and brown, and I wouldn't doubt that for a second. But it does look very cool, and in the end, that's what matters. And that's it for the models this fortnight. I have, of course, in the interest of time, not shared all of the things that were posted, and I left out some really good stuff, so if you want to see it all, head on over to the Miniatures channel on Discord and check it out. Also, if you want, feel free to share some of your own models. We would love to see them. There is of course a link for the Discord server in the description below. This fortnight I've decided to skip the arts and crafts section because I'm running out of time, but it will return next fortnight. And so that's the end of this edition of Ask a Herbert Erpaderp. As always, a big thank you to those of you who've shared your modelling work. I've enjoyed it all, even if it hasn't been shared in this video. Also, thanks to everyone who asked a question. Of course, if you've got questions you would like answered in the next Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, feel free to ask them in the comment section below, or in the appropriate channel on Discord. And if you haven't already, why not sub here on YouTube, follow me on social media, or watch me stream on Twitch. And if you really like what I do, please consider supporting over on Patreon, or perhaps by purchasing a shirt or mug from my merch store. Links to all of those things are in the description below, and as always, I shall return soon, so until then, be excellent to each other and thanks for watching. Farewell.